Good day. My name is Marco Bertaccini. I'm from AEB. Today I'm going to tell you a little bit about a study that AEB has been doing with the University of Torino, looking at color stability in different groups of varieties. And varieties were grouped according to their composition in anthocyanin. The aim of the study was to see if additions of tannins, exogenous tannins, in the first 72 hours of maceration can affect the stability and how. So for this purpose, we looked at about 27, I think it was, varieties, definitely more than 20s, and grouped them together by mean of their composition of anthocyanin. So how many acylated anthocyanin, which is like the most resistant color that can be in the skin. How much of the malvidin, which is a 3-substituted, rather unique, stable, but hard to extract anthocyanin. How much of the delphinidin, how much of the peonidin and petunidin, which are less stable, and so important to see if they're there because they need to be protected and stabilized. So by looking at the composition and how it's stacked, we basically formed 5 families originally of cousins. Syrah being cousin of Touriga Nacional, Montepulciano d'Abruzzo, Teroldego, Barbera, Carmener, being cousins with Merlot and Cab Sauvignon, Negramaro, Tempranillo, Aglianico, Primitivo, Malbec, Nero d'Avola, Pinotage in Group 3, Group 4 with Pinot Noir being cousins with Sangiovese, and then Group 5, which is just Nebbiolo, very important in this research because it's done in Torino, and Nebbiolo is a very unique and very important grape in Piemonte. So when we're done with this 5 groups, then for our commercial studies, we reduced it to 4 groups, where we integrated Syrah in the Merlot Cab group. We see how, for example, in the Pinot Noir and Sangiovese, in this graph, the acylated anthocyanin, so the most resistant color, is basically non-existent. We have a good amount of peonidin, for example, in the Pinot Noir Nebbiolo groups. But peonidin, we just said that is not very stable. So is the chanidin, which is also a good chunk of the color. Chanidin, along with delphinidin and petunidin, are also very easily to extract. So we extract them first, and this is another difference between the anthocyanin. Other than being more or less resistant to oxidation, are more or less extracted in the first 72 hours, which was the focus of the study here. So chanidin and petunidin and delphinidin turn out to be very easily extracted in the first 72 hours, as reported also in the literature mentioned here, but they are very sensitive to oxidation, and so they need to be protected. Here is a graph from also previous literature that shows how basically after 3 days, this desubstituted pigments reach their max, whereas malvidin keeps growing afterwards. So what happened in the first 72 hours of the study? For our group 4 and 5, with the Pinot Noir, the Sangiovese, and the Nebbiolo, the Quebracho tannins were really useful for shielding the oxygen, worked sometimes even better than the Lagic that are more famous, more octannin are used a lot for protecting from oxidation. But these Quebracho tannins were able to protect from oxidation, eliminate oxygen from the media, and also polymerize the color in a stable pigment. So it really worked well in this first 72 hours to protect the color. In fact, for Pinot Noir, Sangiovese, and Nebbiolo, early tannin addition resulted in the study very remarkable. In particular, Quebracho showed an effective ability in preserving delphinidin, chanidin, peonidin, giving significantly higher results with respect of the control. We're talking 26.7 to 84.4% more of these pigments when using Quebracho in the first 72 hours. Also, there was more of the petunidin, we're talking 31.2%. In Nebbiolo, we also noticed an effect of ellagic tannin in protecting the color that brought the unacylated cyanidin to being higher than the control by 37.5 to 84.4%. So for Nebbiolo, definitely also the ellagic addition had a good effect. What about the high malvidin varieties, like, for example, the Montepulciano and the Cabernet Sauvignon? Well, they definitely benefited from the early addition of Quebracho, because this variety not only have malvidin, but they also carry cyanidin and delphinidin. So by preserving these two pigments, the color was increased. Other than that, the malvidin there wasn't really a difference in preserving the malvidin when using the Quebracho. We noticed that there was more malvidin being preserved in those varieties where the tannins, the phenolics from the skins and from the seeds were higher. So this suggested another study, and adding tannins from skins and seeds resulted in a more stable malvidin after the 72 hours. So that's something that has been taken in consideration in the formulation of the products that we're going to talk later. Seeds and skin tannins really affect the stability of the malvidin after the 72 hours. And that's when the malvidin comes out. So another study that we want to do is to see how enzymes can affect the extraction of malvidin after the 72 hours. So a late addition of enzyme can affect the extraction. So the formulation of the tannin that resulted from the study brought to 3 different products that can be used for a situation where malvidin is prevalent or high, like Cabernet, Barbera, Merlot, Teroldico, Montepulciano varieties. Here we said we need the seed tannin, we need skin tannins for later polymerization of the malvidin. We need Quebracho to protect the less stable color in the first 72 hours. So a formulation of these 3 kinds of tannins in Fermotan CB. Fermotan AG stands for Aglianico, as ellagic for protection from oxygen and also for helping the polymerization of the color. And then is completed with Quebracho, which we have seen is the best in the first 72 hours to preserve and polymerize color. And there are also grape-derived tannins, because also in this group, malvidin is quite prevalent. For the Fermotan SG, which is for Sangiovese, Pinot Noir, and Nebbiolo, we have a shield of protection with really reactive ellagic tannins, but also with the Quebracho that proved to be the best for polymerization and protection of this color. So I hope you learned something today. I did, and hopefully we'll see you soon. This video is recorded during the shelter in place, so we're not seeing anybody these days, but hopefully we can come to you with these videos and see you in real life when it's gonna be possible. Have a great day.